Cam Sutton turned himself in to police 24 hours ago. He was then released on his own recognizance and hit with a misdemeanor as opposed to the original felony. What does this have to do with your favorite football team? Well, hang on a sec. Good morning to you. Good Tuesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and this is Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into hockey and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Penguins and Pirates in the same place that you found this. If you're unfamiliar with this, about a month ago, Sutton had been hit with charges of domestic violence that included strangulation and other stuff that I'm not going to get into in a morning show, happy show. Not pleasant stuff at all. He was at the Lions facility when this happens. The Lions met with him. The Lions released him. The Lions and the National Football League always do their own handiwork on stuff like this. They don't rely on the police, and they don't base their own decisions on how things play out in a court of law. Otherwise, Ben Roethlisberger never would have been suspended for 4 games because, remember, there wasn't even a charge filed against him. But the league felt it had to do something. The league took its own action. And that was that. In Cam's case, the Lions wanted nothing. I mean, it was instant. Just boom, see ya. That was that. And this less than a year after signing him to a 3-year, $39 million contract. So the way this plays out, Cam was, I guess, on the run. He wasn't available to be arrested. I don't know the extremes to which the police, and this was down in St. Petersburg, Florida, went to try to find him. I would hope they wouldn't have wasted a ton of manpower on that. But he turned himself in a couple nights ago. There's video of this. And less than a day later, he's out. It's changed to a misdemeanor, and he puts out a statement. This was really late last night, that he and his family consider it to be a private matter. They're going to deal with it as a family, and I guess that's the end of that. Now, why I'm bringing that up here, I guess now would be obvious. He's a free agent. He's out there. He's available to anybody. And it'll be for infinitely less than 3 years and $39 million. For one, he's 29 years old, and there aren't a whole lot of effective 30-year-old cornerbacks. For another, he wasn't that good with the Lions. He had a down year, or he began a decline. I don't work in Detroit, so I don't know which it is, but I do know that down means down, and if you're in that position, you don't want to have down at that age. But you say the Steelers need a corner. But you say, well, he wasn't charged with anything. But even the police only stuck him with a misdemeanor. And maybe the Lions releasing him might have been a move of convenience on their part, where they said, oh, look, we can just cut this guy. Like, they can do that anyway, but we can just cut this guy without any sort of backlash or repercussions here, and we can look like we're, I don't know. You see what I'm saying? There's a lot of uncertainty in all this, except for one thing, and I know this to be true. There is a bond between the Steelers and this player, and vice versa. I am told, and you'll recall that I was the one who broke the story early last fall, that the real reason that Cam signed with the Lions was because he wanted to be closer to his daughters who were living in Detroit. Apparently, he and the mother of the children weren't getting along great. They had a split, but Cam still didn't want to be in Pittsburgh when the daughters were in Detroit. And at the meeting, when he informed the Steelers of what he was going to do, he was the one who'd been moved to tears. Also and relevant, I got to tell you, I talk to a lot of players about a lot of things, and I do it a lot. And the next person who has any cautionary tale or gotta watch out for that guy or he's got all kinds of issues remark to make about Cam, and I'm talking about even off the record, will be the first. I learned long ago in the news business to be very careful in classifying somebody, good guy, good dude, or for that matter, a good woman when I was covering female athletes in the Olympics. You just don't know. You can't know. But I do feel it's relevant to share that this wasn't one of those people where you heard like whispers about, or there might be some kind of trouble there or something. This whole month, including fleeing the police and whatever else, has been hard-hitting news to these players who know him and love him. And would they accept him back? Yes. There's no doubt in my mind about that. They would accept him back. Players will judge other players for the most part based on how they are in front of them. That's been true in my coverage of professional sports forever. Would Mike Tomlin, would the coaching staff bring him back? I think from a purely football standpoint, the answer to that would be yes. Purely football. Because from what I understand, the Steelers themselves made quite the offer, a competitive offer, with Detroit to try to keep him. They had made it a priority to keep him. But ultimately, before you do anything like this, you, the Steelers, have to find out what they, the Lions, knew. You have to find out what the NFL and its own security force might have found out. And from there, you've got to do your own work. And you've got to have diligence. You've got to be armed for any conversation that follows on this subject. Yes, of course, I am aware that they've had incidents in the past, and they've overlooked some of those incidents. Or they've just decided, well, that person has already, paid his penance or cleared up his situation or whatever. But this is different because the stuff on the original report, the whole strangulation thing and everything, was out there and is out there. And the Steelers had better be crazy careful if they were to take this on as a case. All that said, I'm wishing the best for Cam and his entire family, meaning everyone affected by whatever it was that happened. When we come back, J1Q.
This segment of Daily Shot is brought to you by our good friends at Mike's Beer Bar. They're located on Federal Street, directly across from PNC Park. Mike has more than 500 beers on tap, including from more than 50 local breweries. Stop in and say hello. Tell Mike we sent you. Mike's Beer Bar. Today's J1Q comes from Tom, who says, "Hi DK, with all the emphasis on the running game and having not one but two really strong running backs, do you see a scenario in which Arthur Smith has Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren both on the field at the same time? And if the Steelers aren't going to throw the ball ever again, we will need some sort of deception or something so the defenses can't just run straight at the only running back on the field." Tom, there's not a history with Smith of putting multiple guys on the field, certainly not aligned as running backs if you're thinking way back to old school football. There's just nothing there. He's had two running backs on the field, but they've not always been actual running backs. Cordero Patterson, who, by the way, signed a 2-year contract that's now official to join the Steelers yesterday, was part of that backfield. Bijan Robinson, the number 8 overall draft pick, joined the fold, and both of those players had lots of other things they could do. They were catching passes. They were lining up in different places. That's really not what you have here. And if you ask me, what's made Harrison Warren an effective duo for the Steelers, and actually, if you ask them, they'll answer this question the same way. It's that they're trading off reps. They're not both out there for 70 snaps a game. They're certainly not out there for, 30 carries each or anything insane like that. Because let's remember that if you're the second running back on the field, you're not just standing there as a decoy. You're going to be tasked with doing something. And chances are only about 99 out of 100 that task will be blocking, which isn't exactly a picnic. And I got to be honest with you, that's not worth it to me. If I'm the coach of this team, not the coordinator, but the head coach, I'm not interested in any plan that says, hey, let's just get Najee and Jalen out there for 20 more reps just to try to fool the other team. I do think there are different things that you can do with those guys, certainly a lot more to their capabilities than what's been seen in the Matt Canada offense, for example. Najee's always been capable of catching passes out of the backfield. He was that in college. Just it wasn't in the Canada scheme. You can count the number of screens that he ran. Well, they're right up there with the number of play action passes that he ran. Jalen has less of a history of that, but I haven't seen Jalen really flop at anything yet, have you? So I think there are other ways that those guys can align. I'm positive that they're going to use Patterson in that capacity, somehow, some way. So here again, he'll be a second running back. He'll be on the field, but they're not just going to be standing there in an I formation. I do agree with you that deception is good. Deception is vital in the modern NFL. But there are other ways to generate that without putting two running backs out there. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Steelers. We're going to do another one of these tomorrow.